This is Scott the Fix-It Guy. Today we're going to be repairing an electric dryer that doesn't heat because the drying element is no longer working. The spring is broken. This is what it looks like when it is working and it's full of power and hitting the full heat. So we want to make sure we've unplugged the 220 volt circuit or we've turned off both breakers. And then we're going to remove the lower panel from the dryer by using a paint scraper, or you can use a screwdriver to push in on these clips. There's two of them. They're about maybe 1.5 inches in from each side. And then we can get this panel out of the way, and that'll give us access to the element that needs to be replaced. So we have to remove this little screw, and it's a 1/4 inch screw, so I'm just using a little ratchet to get that out. Go lefty-loosey. We'll get that one out, and then we have another screw here at the bottom that we have to remove. You can use a ratchet here. I'm just using an angle drive, makes it a little bit faster. So we get that screw out, and then we can remove this bracket that's holding the element in place. We just pull, once we get that screw removed, we just pull that out, and then we'll be able to get the element out by twisting it to our left side. So we're going to grab it with 2 hands. We're going to twist it to 45 degrees to the left, and then we'll be able to wiggle the whole element assembly out. Just comes right out, and it's still hooked to the wires, so we just have to disconnect some of these wires. This one's off of an actual unit that was used, so it's got a lot of this lint on it. We're going to clean that off. We just got to remove all these wires, and again, you want to make sure that the unit is unplugged because this is 220 volts. So we get all of these wires removed, and then we can take the whole heating element out of the dryer. We just slide it right out, and we're cleaning it off, and then we're going to be pulling the element out of this housing. But first we got to remove one of these screws. It's just a 1/4 inch screw here over by the high limit, and we got to pull that screw out, and then we can knock out the element from the back side. So I got these 2 screws removed. I'm coming in from the back now. I'm going to push this out. In this case, I'm going to use a little hammer to give it a tap to get it moving. And then I'll flip it over. I'm going to hold it with my knees here to get a grip on it, and then I'll just pull the old one out. Not easy to get these out. You got to pull pretty hard. And I'll grab the new one and just slide it on into its slots. Goes in pretty easily. Near the end, you're going to have to push it a bit to get it to fit all the way in flush. And then there's just going to be one 1/4 inch screw that we're going to put in there to hold it in. So we're just tightening up that screw, and then we'll be able to put the whole assembly back in. We're just showing the old element. It's just a big wire, a big spring, and they break eventually. And when they break, they no longer send current through, and they no longer get hot. So I was just looking through this old one to see if I could see where the break is. It happened right there. And that's just part of it getting hot and cold over and over, and finally the metal fatigues and breaks. And that's when you need to get a new element. Pretty common. This is probably about 8 to 10 years in we get this problem happening. So that's what the old one looks like. And we're going to consider this little tab here at the back end of the element housing. We got to make sure that that's going to go into this air ducting in the back, and it's going to fit in at the 10 o'clock position, so about 45 degrees to your left. That's how it's going to go in. We're going to tilt the housing 45 degrees so that tab can go in first, and then we can push in the bottom of the housing, and then using two hands we can twist the whole housing and get it to lock in, tilting it to a vertical or a 12 o'clock position. So we're starting at 10 o'clock, 45 degrees, get that little tab in there, and we're going to push it in and turn it until it's in the 12 o'clock position, or straight up and down. So keep turning it. Usually I like to use two hands to give me enough leverage. And then once we have that in position, we're going to put in this front support. Just want to show you guys what it looks like once it's in. So it's got to be a tight seal here in the back, can't be any gaps. Then we're going to put in that front support. The support bracket, it's just going to slide in. It has a little tongue on it that fits into a groove. Just there we go, it just fits right in. And then there's a 1/4 inch screw that goes up inside there to hold it. Kind of a tight space, so you have to use a small ratchet. So we're putting in that 1/4 inch screw. Get that one tight, and then we're going to put one at the bottom also to brace the front support down to the frame of the dryer. So we're just making sure we're getting all these wires back on. Again, you wouldn't want to touch these if it was plugged in. You're making sure it's unplugged. We're putting them back on the high limit, and also we're putting them back on the element itself. These are the ones that bring the 240 volts in. So these are just spade connectors, so we can just push them on with our hands. So got those all on, and then we just have that one last screw to hold the front bracket on. So I'm sliding that in position, line up the hole, and then put in the 1/4 inch screw. Just get that tight, and then we can test it. So now we have it plugged in and on, and we can see that all the elements are heating up, and just putting the shield back in position, and we are done. Thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe when you get a chance.